All right. Hi, everyone. I've been up here a little bit, so I'll just introduce myself. My name is Shriya. I'm a second-year student at Harvard College studying molecular biology, and I'm also a researcher at the Harvard-MIT Broad Institute. I'm trying to build a CRISPR-Cas diagnostic for bacterial infections that's 100x cheaper and faster than current methods. So I wanted to very, very briefly talk about a community that's recently become very near and dear to my heart, and one that many of you are probably familiar with, the Bio Ac, or Bio Accelerationism community. For those of you who aren't familiar, we basically believe that thoughtful and responsible acceleration of biological innovation will substantially improve human life, longevity, and patient quality of life. So we really look at biology through like this engineering lens. How can we improve it? And we view biology as a substrate for innovation alongside the massive and substantial improvements we've seen in computing. And I'm sure that's a philosophy many of you guys believe in. And so when I came to Harvard 2 years ago, I pretty quickly kind of attributed and engrossed myself in the academic landscape at institutions like Harvard and also the medical system. And I noticed a couple things. The first thing being that the American healthcare system is very, very slow to changes. And we've seen politicians try to change this, we've seen businesses try to change this, but the fact is there's still so much inertia in the American healthcare system. Obviously, America's not like the best model for healthcare or anything like that, but I would say we have a pretty robust industry there. So that's something to think about. And then a second thing that I noticed was that in the 2000s, we had a really, really major hyperfixation on information technology. We had the dot-com boom, and now with artificial intelligence, but there's arguably an even more robust and way more exciting revolution happening right now with biotechnology, because we're seeing that the probability of drugs being effective is rapidly increasing due to these substantial improvements in silico technologies. We're understanding the biology better and the mechanisms better, and we also have better vehicles for funding this type of research. And so those 2 points were super compelling to me, and I decided that I wanted to devote a lot of my time in college to forwarding and communicating the spirit of the Bio Ac movement. And so I started a podcast called the Bio Ac Podcast. I've had the incredible opportunity to interview some very interesting people, one of which is Jiankui He, the Chinese scientist who gene-edited the twin babies some time back. I've interviewed Bob Langer, and I've interviewed Aubrey. And so this has been a really exciting endeavor for me, and we're really, really excited about this project. We basically just want to push forth this message of DeSci to younger generations and to university students. So if anyone here is interested in sponsoring us or helping us in any capacity, we would really deeply appreciate it. And also, if you could give me a follow on X or Twitter, we're really trying to build this community. The handle is just @Shriya Bhat. We would really appreciate that. But yeah, thank you guys so much. And with that, I'm going to invite our panelists to come up to the stage to talk about patience. Yeah, right here. Not sure if Ethan's here, but yeah, we can just go ahead and...
Yeah.
How
we have 15 minutes.
Falls on the job.
It's way better.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. It's really great to meet both of you. We've obviously heard a lot about your DAOs at this point, so I won't ask you about that again. But if Ethan was here, I would probably ask Ethan and you, Vincent, since you guys come both from more academic / clinical medicine perspective and now going into DeSci and more on the crypto side, why is this all important? Why should we be decentralizing biotech funding and IP into the hands of patients? And were there any like pain points in your experiences before coming here that kind of motivated that transition? And obviously, Brian, if you have any thoughts on that, please do give it a shot.
So basically, it was like the motivation came from like real world problem, and it's patients' problem, but it's also practitioners' problem, because we care about patients, and I love taking care of for patients, like discussing with them, seeing their pain generator, explaining the pain generator. But we also are practitioners, and to be a good practitioner, you have to take care of yourself. I mean, it's been 10 years. I mean, I'm in private practice. I barely have the time to practice sport every week. And taking care of the practitioner is important for the patient. So that was our motivation. Then, in terms of decentralized health, I took the red pill. I think it was like in 2022 or 2023 with a molecular website. And I was like, yeah, this IP NFT and this IPT can empower everybody in the game. Like for the moment, it's just like big pharma and big biotechs, and I'm like, it's the same for a spinal implant game. And I was like, yeah, maybe this could be a vector, like to change everything. To say, you can be a patient and you have your word on what's going on. You have your word on the governance vote. You could be a practitioner, you can have your word, a researcher. And also it was to kind of change the way TradSci is publishing. That was the three red pills. It's a lot.
Yeah, totally, Ethan. Just to repeat the question, it was basically what experiences in academic science kind of maybe led you to not like the traditional funding system, and why you think that decentralizing funding and IP to patients is important.
All right. Well, I was in academia a long time ago, so I'm not coming as a refugee. I'm coming from biotech. So we need to distinguish between two types of DeSci, the people coming from academia and the people coming from biotech. That's why I talk about trad bio versus trad sci. So I had a great graduate school experience. I don't know, maybe I'm unique among people in that way, but I'm coming into DeSci from being a repeat biotech founder and seeing the opportunities in that space that I don't see in trad bio.
You know, for me it was, and I think the rare disease community was an inspiration for me with Cerebrum, because the one I raised my hand for was Angelman syndrome. I have a friend that has a son with that, and I was introduced to the FAST Foundation, and they're already, I think they already have one therapeutic in trials and out licensed to pharma, and it just showed me the power of, like, why are we doing this, right? You know who your customer is, you know what the need is, it's acute, they live with it every day, and that kind of crystallizes things, and it's also very empowering. So, like, what could be more motivating as a researcher to have direct contact to, you know, the people that are affected? And it seems like the way the system's set up right now, it's quite, you know, the labs are removed from, you know, the people with the diseases that you're trying to cure. And if you can connect it, like, I knew this as an entrepreneur, like, I got to be close to my customer, right? The more close to the customer and their problem, the more passionate I am about creating the product that's going to solve that problem, and the more excited I get when I do it because I see the satisfaction. Same thing applies to, you know, to research, to you know, biotherapeutics. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, patients are a really core part of your guys' DAOs and really leads what gets funded, what types of research you do, so that's really critical. Kind of like following up on that, specifically for rare disease, because Ethan, obviously you know about 2/3 of them are for kids, and so the families are extremely motivated, and only about 30% of those kids live till age 5, and so there's a huge motivation there. I was wondering if you guys could speak to, you know, there's huge upside if the drug or the project associated with the drug works. But obviously there's a chance, and things do fail very often. And so do you guys envision there to be like any measures that protect families if the programs fail? Or maybe it succeeds, but then it gets licensed and set at a price that these families can no longer afford?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone going into research understands that failure is a possibility, and you can't be discouraged by that. I ran a phase 3, it didn't work. 90% of drugs in late stage clinical trials don't work. So in some sense, it's no shame because you're like the average. So for families, the ones that are interested in research usually have pretty thick skin and are not going to be deterred. when it comes to success, that's where I think Curetopia is built to help make sure that the upside is fractionalized and collectivized. That's really the key. So, there was a case of a clinical trial that was conducted by a company and resulted in an approval, and then the company said, hey, we're going to give a free lifetime supply to all the patients who were in that trial. That sounds great. And then, they're all patting themselves on the back. Look how great we are for patients. And I'm like, well, if you were doing this from Web3 in the beginning, then you could have been rewarding folks for data participation and for data contribution from the outset, and not some token gesture that makes for a good PR statement. So, yeah, I think failure is just part of the territory. It's mostly planning for success, and then how do we share in that success?
Yeah, there are other aspects to this as well, and we think about it a lot, and we'll have to see how it plays out. But as a token-governed community, as we see success with our project, we're not motivated purely by profit. We're motivated by the solution. And then now we're a global community, diverse, right? So now you're taking a look at, well, does this work across all populations and all different types of people? And what's the accessibility? Are we going to go for out-licensing this to pharma? And we know what that might lead to, which is a very expensive drug. Or is there another way we can kind of push this through to approvals, money aside, but maybe the community can solve it, and then the community is motivated to say, hey, we want this drug to not only get approved, but we want it to be affordable, and we want to validate that it works in a diverse population. This is only possible with a global community-funded organization.
100%. And Jane from Easy Lab said something super relevant this morning, we need data, okay. We need labelized data by experts. But to have data, you need to have human bonds. You need to have trust. And you need also to produce a truth machine. So all the data has to be verified. And blockchain tech is the best to verify, to be transparent on who's doing what. And last, in our system, patient is the exclusive owner of his data. So there is no one else.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, great. I think we're a little strapped for time, but I'm just going to ask a few maybe specific questions to each of you. I have a science background for now. I'm pretty young. But so I'm kind of interested in what makes drugs work and what makes them fail. And so this question's, I think, more for Brian. I've been following some of the failures for Alzheimer's drugs recently, Roche's failure, Athira, there's been plenty. And it's very just well known that Alzheimer's is a really tricky disease, I think, for a lot of reasons. Do we really know the cause? Are we targeting the cause? The mouse models aren't that great. So I was just thinking about how your community and how your DAO thinks about these types of things, and whether you think that the people that make up your DAO, have that knowledge and have that sort of that intuition and that depth to really kind of, knit through some of these challenges that even the science community can't really figure out.
Well, I don't come from science, so but I'm getting up the curve pretty quickly, and also I think that outsider's perspective, the almost naive perspective, lets you ask different questions and challenge some assumptions. But Alzheimer's, the billions and billions of dollars we've spent on it. I mean, we're still treating this disease. I mean, if I made a parallel to heart disease, the way we're treating Alzheimer's, we would be testing statins on people who have congestive heart failure and are in need of bypass surgery, right? It's not going to work. So the pathology of Alzheimer's is so far along, and we're testing these drugs and trying to stop or reverse it when neuroinflammation is creating a toxic stew in the brain and neurons are dying, and there's very little you can do about it, unfortunately. So we've, as a community, have said, let's treat this brain disease as a function of aging, and let's go upstream. And let's say, why does this pathology even exist in the first place? What causes the amyloid to even start building up before you get to the tangles and the inflammation? And are there other upstream causes of this? And we're starting to fund that. Thankfully, we have blood biomarkers coming out now where you can detect some of this pathology, and I think we can start treating this more like we treat heart disease with cholesterol and statins now. So,
yeah, absolutely. Do we have time for one short statement or one last thing? Okay, I'm going to ask you guys to maybe answer in just a single sentence, or maybe just pick one of the three. multiple choice. So obviously founding a BioDAO seems to require a lot of different fluencies in science, in crypto economics, which I know very little about, and in patient engagement. And so which pillar has been the hardest for you guys when you're scaling your DAOs and your companies?
Creating human trust and human bonds first. That's the most challenging stuff. And if you want to have the great data set, you need to have human bonds. And let's build bridges between spine, cerebrum, and rare disease. This is the beauty of the BioDAO from Bioprotocol, that we are in it together.
I think, so, I'm a solo founder as well, but I'm a repeat founder. So what I'm realizing now is you have to be a CEO, you have to be a CFO, that's the crypto economics part, managing the treasury. You have to be the CBO, the chief business officer, you have to go out and scour for partnerships, and you're the CSO. So doing all those things, I love it, but it is definitely a juggling act.
I think it's essential to recruit the community, and I think it's very hard. And by recruiting the community, that's where you get this diverse talent pool, so you solve a lot of these problems, because people come in with expertise all over the place. I've been absolutely blown away at the quality of talent that finds their way to us, and sometimes I scratch my head and say, what are we doing that we're getting all these brilliant people in all these different capabilities areas that we just need, and they're doing the work. So. But that takes a lot of time, and we're still working really hard at it.
Absolutely. With that, thank you guys so much. This wraps up the afternoon panel.